Welcome to this episode of Whiskey and WealthTech. I'm your host, Alex Serman, Managing Director of Wealth and Institutional here at First Rates. Today, I am joined by Susan Agbenoto. Susan, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, Alex. My name is Susan Agbenoto, and I'm the Director of Investment Performance for Opus Investment Management. And I've been doing this for about 24 years now. And that does make me 21 years old, just in case you were wondering. Yeah, I started off with performance, and since then I've done performance, also performance attribution and analysis. I've looked at risk statistics, looking more from a peer industry view, so looking at things like standard deviation, alpha across the board, and then of course GIPS compliance. When I started, we were just dabbling in GIPS at that point, and it was the AIMER PPS at that time. So I took basically a company that was just starting and made it a GIPS compliant firm. And since then, we've been verified annually and passed that verification. And it was no small feat, but I believe that being GIPS compliant is very important today if you're reporting any kind of performance.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And that, as you said, that is no small feat to help take a firm to become GIPS compliant and to continue being compliant. It's a huge task and certainly a well rewarded one because that is a huge thing in the industry to be GIPS compliant and show that you are following all those kinds of guidelines. So with today's episode, so typically we do whiskey here at Whiskey and WealthTech, but you still honored us with your presence on the show, even though you personally don't drink. And so instead of having whiskey, today we're having some tea. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what tea are you drinking today?
So today I'm actually drinking green tea, and I flip-flop between hot tea and cold tea, or what we
Mhm.
would call iced tea. And I'm drinking green tea because I'm starting to get over a cold, like I told you, and I think that it has herbal effects. Whether or not that's true, well, I'm a believer, so that's what I drink. But usually I drink a lot of hot coffee. I drink maybe 2 cups a day,
Okay.
sometimes three of different types of, hot teas. Even though there are all kinds of flavored teas now, I
Mhm.
think I still like black tea the most, and I like the different types of black teas, the Earl Greys, the breakfast blends.
Mhm.
As soon as you introduce flavor, I just feel like it's no longer tea, it's something else. So that's just
For
my
sure.
my personal preference. How about you?
So today, I am drinking a black tea. It is a saffron black tea blend, actually. And so I'll show it here. It's interestingly enough, so the owner of or the head of the First Rate Afghanistan office, his daughter felt called to create tea out of saffron out of Afghanistan. And so after reading about, the drug trade in Afghanistan, and that at the time, there was a big push to get farmers to grow saffron rather than, you know, other plants that could be turned into drugs. She wanted to help support that and export saffron out of Afghanistan to then be made into teas. And so I'm having their black tea blends today, and
I
again,
approve. That's a very interesting story. I like that a lot. My auntie recently came to visit from the UK, and she brought me tea too because she knows I like tea. So she brought me a Yorkshire tea.
okay.
And yeah, and then she also brought me one called Famous Teas. She's a big tea drinker like me, so that's what we have in common. Is we ask what tea are you drinking today? Because we're all into different types, Twinings, Earl Grey. The only tea I'm not very fond of is the Lipton because I
Mm.
think it's the most watered down version of tea. But hopefully nobody from Lipton Company is listening. I still drink it. I still buy it, but it's my least favorite. only because I don't get that strong tea taste from it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Since most of the whiskey we drink here is cask strength on the episode on these episodes, I totally understand wanting to get the full flavor of whatever you're drinking and not get the watered down version that you can get. Um,
Absolutely.
so jumping into the episode, one of the cool things that you got to do this year is you wrote an article for FTF News about outsourcing client reporting, and so I wanted to ask you a little bit about, the impetus behind that article, what caused you to write it, what were you hoping to, your readers would get out of that article, and just, kind of see, kind of summarize it for us and what your thoughts are there.
Sure, absolutely. The FTF News annual conference, they have a client reporting conference every year, which is a very rich conference, I think. When it happened this year, I was on the panel for outsourcing,
Mhm.
or talking about outsourcing client reporting. And Maureen had asked me, she said, can you write a blog for this? And I was excited. I was excited because I had started to see some trends in outsourcing. I had seen outsourcing that really worked well,
Mhm.
and in places where it didn't work well. And like every buzzword, like we have the buzzwords of AI today, or
Mhm.
cybersecurity, all these things. Thank God for CrowdStrike. If you didn't know what cybersecurity was, now you know what it is. But I
Mhm.
think outsourcing had also become a buzzword, but that didn't necessarily mean that it was appropriate or relevant for your firm. So I think the biggest takeaway I wanted my readers or my audience to walk away with was just a pure assessment. When it comes to outsourcing, where
Mhm.
do we stand? Based on our efficiency models, do we need to outsource, or do we just need to improve or leverage what we have now? So that was really the impetus behind that blog, that article.
Okay. And you talk in the article about this efficiency matrix on, when is it appropriate to outsource, when is it not appropriate to? Would you mind walking us through that and kind of describing, at what's that turning point that you feel a firm runs into when it is time to really outsource that or not to?
Right. So within the what I call the operating efficiency matrix, I clustered all the things we look at as firms into four blocks. The first thing is scale. What kind of scale are you doing with? There's a time when, as a firm, we're okay with the scale we have, and that's, number of clients, volume of accounts, that sort of thing. When the scale starts to grow and then your technology or your personnel doesn't grow with it, that's one point at which you need to sit down and assess, do we outsource or do we do something different within the firm? The second thing outside of scale is maximizing your expertise. So with client reporting, I'm even going to veer off a little bit and say even something like performance. It can get to a point where you have so many different asset classes that require different types of performance, and the expertise you have in-house may not be able to generate performance in all the different asset classes. Again, at that point, you start to think, do I want to outsource, generally performance in some parts of operations and even reporting, or do we hire more people who have that expertise in-house? Then the third block is um, business efficiencies. I didn't want to use the word money, but that's basically what it is. What's the budget? Yeah, of the firm. And I think that probably is the bigger driver nowadays
Mhm.
is how can you, within the budget that you have, still keep the talent you have and report quality work and just have, quality reports that you give to your clients. And there is a point at which you realize that if you want to maintain a certain quality in your reporting, and that reporting, I must say, is also a certain pivot in having excellent relationship with your clients, because you talk to your clients face to face, we develop the social aspect, but underlying all that is your reporting. What are you telling them? So when you see that the quality of the reporting is low because you either don't have the talent or even the budget, at that point you start to rethink how do we creatively change this around. And then the last block of the operational efficiency matrix is just your technology.
Mhm.
Where are you in technology? I remember I was talking to a lady last week, and she was just genuinely asking me about attribution systems because we happen to be talking about attribution. And I remember telling her, I said, I remember that before we used the current attribution system we had, what we used was dinosauric. That was the word I used. And it stuck with me that I used that word because some of our systems, that's how you describe them. You literally press, the key and you sit back and wait 10 minutes. I mean, if you're in that place, you are working with a dinosaur and you have to sit back and ask yourself, is this efficient use of time? Is there something more modern we can use, something more efficient, something that will free up even production, so that you sort of move production personnel from production to quality assurance, rather than having 10 people sitting down and pressing one key and waiting for the engine to churn. So those are kind of the four blocks of the matrix that I talk about in the article, and the four driving factors which firms really use to assess, do we move on to outsource or do we just do something different in-house?
And that makes perfect sense. And being on the vendor side of things, those are really the kinds of things that our clients or prospective clients really look at before deciding, you know, moving with us or another competitor in the industry, something like that. And you know, being able to outsource can sometimes be a bad word. It's another one of those buzzwords that sometimes people don't like as much, depending on the context, but really we call it just really extending their team to include people from outside of the firm. And so for us, we really consider ourselves an extension of our clients' performance teams or reporting teams. So rather than okay, we're just going to take it on and you don't have to deal with this anymore, it's really, hey, we're here to support you, both from a technology and a service side, so that way, to your point, you're not having to hire more bodies just to throw at a problem. To scale it, you're able to bring in state of the art, cutting edge technology that can actually improve your reporting and not just make it, instead of making it less bad, actually just add value to what you're doing and telling that investment story to your client. Because the things that our clients and you are best at are creating that investment story, speaking with the client on it, building that relationship with them, building that trust. And so while you add your value there, you can rely on somebody else to do the reporting part, do the technology part, and add that value. So that way, the sum at the end of it is greater than its parts. And so
I
we
definitely agree.
So we see a lot of that with our clients, and and it just really helps overall build the relationship of being able to have everybody do kind of what their competitive advantage really is, to use an economics term.
Yes, yes, no, and that's an important point because when you can offload the production and start to really zoom in on more quality related types of tasks, I think that that's where you see maximized efficiency. So no, that's great that you shared that.
Absolutely. And so when you're looking at technology partners to help outsource these various functions to, so what are the kinds of things that you're looking for? We're a technology vendor. We know what our clients are looking for, but it's interesting to hear about what are the things in the industry that really stand out. What are you looking for in a partner, and how do you go about making those kinds of decisions?
So, Alex, you answered part of the question by using the word partner.
Mhm.
I think most importantly, we're looking for a partner. We're not just looking for someone who will run reports for us, or do certain tasks. The vision has to be pretty similar. You have to know what my vision is, see my vision, and then working together. But I must also say that in looking for a technology partner, I'm looking for someone who can explain and demonstrate at the same time that they can satisfy the need that I have. So if I'm looking to reconcile data, I need you as a partner to be able to explain to me how you're going to take my files and be able to help me reconcile the data and demonstrate it for me to see. I use those two words intentionally because I think there are times when we get caught up in the package. So I went out looking for a reconciliation tool, and then someone sold me a package that has client reporting and, Power BI. And I can, out of my reports, I can have these colorful things. And then at the end of the day, I'm sitting behind my desk and I cannot reconcile my numbers. I can do all the colorful reporting, but I can't do the one thing that I need. So, the fundamental need has to always be insight, and that vendor has to be able to really explain that beyond all the other things they can offer me, this
Mhm.
one need they can actually demonstrate that they can satisfy it, and then they can do it. And then also the customer service model, I think is becoming more and more important. And I think in looking at some of the KPIs and even the service level agreements, what the expectations are for customer service, things like, when I call, what is the turnaround time that I'm going to get to either have someone get back to me, or what's the turnaround time for problem resolution? Because I can also have a great partner, but if I can never get you on the phone, that's a problem. Or
Mm.
if it takes 2 weeks to resolve, a fund issue, that's also a problem. So
Mhm.
just have knowing what the customer service model is and having the expectation level set right at the beginning, because then that we are truly partners. You know what to expect from me, and I know what to expect from you as well.
That makes perfect sense. And setting expectations, I mean, not just for technology vendors, but really in any kind of relationship is extremely critical to making sure that there's shared success. And so, being able to partner with firms and trust them like you would any other relationship, that they're going to deliver on what they said they're going to deliver on. They're not just going to show you all the bells and whistles that don't actually solve the problem that you have and that you started out with in the first place. Um, yeah, we've seen, seen things like that before, and you really want to make sure you're vetting where, who you're signing up with, because you want to make sure that your needs are truly being met. And to your point, that the customer service, that's something that I feel is extremely critical in any kind of vendor relationship, because if you're not able to contact people, if things aren't getting resolved in a timely manner, it's all well and good if the technology is great, but if when it breaks you can't get it fixed, then it it's not all that helpful.
Right, right, right. Now, Alex, what would you say would be an ideal customer for you from a vendor side? What are you also looking for
Mhm.
when you're contacted by a customer or a client?
So I think you put it very well, that we're looking for partners. We're not just looking for transactional relationships with our clients, because these are people that we're going to be working with day in and day out. So at First Rate, our three major stakeholders are our clients, our communities, and our coworkers. And so every decision that we make is looked at through the lens of how is it going to impact these three sets of stakeholders. And so bringing on a new client to us, that impacts our coworkers, that impacts our communities, that impacts our ability to service our other clients. And so we want to make sure that as we bring on new clients, that they kind of um, fit into our culture and in a way that will positively impact um, all these other people. Because if we bring in a client that ends up not being a partner or something like that, and it's a really negative relationship, something like that, that can have a poor impact on those other those three stakeholders. And so we look for that. We look for people that really understand what they want. We don't want to necessarily be talking to a client that comes in, it's like, well, we've heard you do X, Y, and Z, sell us on the whole package. It's like, well, okay, what do you actually want? Because if you don't really know, what you're looking for and what you're hoping to get out of it, and there's no criteria for success here, then we're not going to be able to be successful with this kind of nebulous, um, you know, this nebulous kind of thing. And so overall, we really look for good, long-standing partnerships with our clients, people that are in it for the long haul, that really fit in with our culture, and want to have impacts on their communities, and their coworkers like we do. And so that way, we set each other up for win-win situations and can positively impact each other and all of the other people that we do business with together.
Amazing, amazing. I like that. Your clients, your coworkers, and your communities, how you impact that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And that even goes back to the tea that we're drinking, that, we have, it's not a first rate employee, but the first rate's business helps grow the communities in places like Afghanistan that allow us to benefit more and more people that may not even be remotely connected to the wealth management industry. But because first rate exists, we're helping benefit people that otherwise might not get that kind of help.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wasn't there something that you were doing in some Central American countries as well?
So yes, we do quite a bit all over the world, and so one of the things that First Rate does is we partner with Youth with a Mission. So that's a international organization that benefits a lot of people, and one of their particular programs is called Homes of Hope. And so I've done several trips with Homes of Hope, sponsored by First Rates. We do some with other professional groups as well, where we go and over the course of 2 days go build a house. Um,
Wow.
and so, from start to finish, we're doing electric, we're putting up the walls. I usually go up on the roof. That's where I kind of like to be, nailing down shingles. And, gets to work with the family, take them shopping, kind of help get them some furniture, some food, things like that to kind of fill the house with once it's done, and then hand the keys to them at the end of the second day. And so this is something that, with those three stakeholders that we have, our coworkers get to go on these. We do several of these trips throughout the year. We've had clients go on these with us before, and so we've had a number of clients and partners join us. So one of the professional groups that we work with, Tiburon, um, a couple of their leadership team went on a home build with us, loved it so much that they now do an annual build themselves and invite members of that organization to attend. So I've been on several of those, and this just impacts, again, our communities. We do this, mostly in Mexico, Costa Rica. We've done some other countries, but it's pretty amazing, the kind of stuff that gets done, and that's just one specific example of things that First Rate does, and that we invite our clients to partner with us on to build those relationships, impact other people, and really be a positive force in the world to try to make this world at least a little bit better.
That's very impressive, Alex. And I would like to go with you on one of those trips. That just sounds amazing. So congrats
Absolutely.
to you guys. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and we will certainly have be happy to have you come along and join us. Um, and so finally, my last question, this is kind of the standard final question that I have for most of my guests. So you've been in the performance and reporting industry for quite some time, even though you're only 21. Um,
Right.
but what do you think the biggest trend is that's going to be occurring? What are some of the things that either you've heard from your clients, you've heard from, other firms in the industry? What do you think the next big thing is, and how are you getting ready for it?
So two of the trends that I think are gaining traction are one ESG.
Hmm.
There's still a lot of talk and a lot of expectation around building some sort of reporting around ESG, whether it's just simple carbon footprinting or climate exposure. I mean, no matter how basic, or if you want to go ahead and report across all the pillars, or, people are slowly building more and more expectation around firms having some sort of ESG reporting that they can say, okay, when it comes to ESG, this is what we have. That's one trend that I think is growing, and I think with different insurance shops also looking more deeply into it, it's making it become almost like a necessary evil. The second, well, not evil, but the second trend I also see is just AI in everything, and it could be as simple as, like I mentioned, reconciling data,
Mhm.
or it can be as advanced as writing commentary, especially when, the commentary is generic for the most part. Is how do I get AI to write this commentary for these 100 accounts, so that a portfolio manager is not writing or customizing 100 different words each time. So those are the two trends that I think are just really growing in just exposure awareness, and not just among the firms, but also among clients. And
Mhm.
they're forming some sort of expectation around those. And I am definitely curious to hear from your side, what do you also see as trends as a vendor?
For sure. So ESG is something that I would say internationally. So with a lot of our, UK, European clients is very relevant. And talking with them, that's been a big trend. Less so on the US side. I would say that most of our US clients are aware that this is something that eventually they're going to need to address. But I don't think many of them are quite ready to really get their hands dirty with it. But AI has been huge globally, kind of as you mentioned. So first rate, we have our own proprietary AI engine, which we've been using to do a lot of things like the data reconciliation, portfolio commentary, other kinds of things with AI. And so it's really been a game changer for us and really helped set us apart from some of our competitors and really be able to provide even greater levels of service to our clients. So that's been something that's huge, and that also could be considered a necessary evil because you have greater efficiencies, some amazing things that they can do, and at the same time every single compliance team at every firm is freaking out about AI
Right.
and what it's actually going to do and what does this mean and how secure is it. And so it is a little tough to walk that tightrope just right, to make sure that you're actually able to do things appropriately but not um, cause issues and have something like CrowdStrike happen.
Yeah.
And then just the increase in asset allocation towards private equities or other alternative assets has been huge. So over the last few years, I know it's been a massive shift of assets towards alternative investments. And so that's something that a lot of our clients are really now seeing a lot of investment in from their clients. And so okay, how do we report on this? How do we calculate performance? Are we doing it correctly? How
Right.
do we do that compared to your standard equities or fixed income assets? And, what do we do here and how do we appropriately tell that investment story to our clients? And they really rely on us to help consult with them on that. And so that's been a huge push that I've seen as well. So I would say those three trends are probably the biggest. I've seen a few other trends here and there that I think maybe in the next couple of years might bubble up into something bigger than they are currently. But right now, those are probably the three top things that we're seeing from the vendor side and have been doing a lot of developments to address for our clients.
I agree with you. And that would have been number three on my list, was also the private equity, how to do the client reporting, and even what benchmarks do we use in terms of private equity. So that could be a whole episode on its own in discussing private equity. But no, I totally agree with you.
Susan, we appreciate you so much for joining us today on Whiskey and Wealth Tech. Appreciate your insights into all things performance and reporting, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon and sharing another cup of tea.
Alex, it was a great joy, and I definitely learned a lot from you on the vendor side as well. And I'll continue to drink my green tea and look forward to seeing you again.